Today's program will begin momentarily. Supported by Verso Studios, created locally and shared with the world.
All right, good evening. Good evening, everyone. It's never easy to be the first speaker to bring people to their seats, or standing in the back, or a variety of both. So I'm Jennifer Tooker. I am your first select woman here in Westport, and I want to say thank you to all of you for joining us at our launch event for Startup Westport. A quick thank you as well to the library tonight for hosting this event, and thanks in advance for hosting many more on our behalf. And also thank you to our local businesses, Black Bear Wines and Fato a Mano, for providing drinks and nibbles. So the inspiration behind this initiative began with two separate meetings. Both Stefano Pacifico and Cliff Serlin reached out to me separately. They did not know each other at the time, with the goal of making Westport the tech startup hub of Connecticut. And I thought, if I'm hearing from two super smart gentlemen that don't know each other on the same issue and the same idea, I'm in, right? It was a very easy decision. And so, as all of you know, Westport is the home to many technology businesses, leaders, entrepreneurs, investors, just like all of you. And Startup Westport, which is what we're calling this initiative, will build on our reputation and existing network to grow the local ecosystem of entrepreneurship and innovation in information technology and related fields. This is being driven by a group of incredibly talented residents involved in the industry, who I will introduce shortly, and in partnership with the town and the library. So the residents involved are, and I'm going to ask you all to identify yourself, and please raise your hand. Stefano Pacifico, there he is. Stefano's really been a very much a driving force here, and he'll come up and speak in a few minutes. Matt Gorin, who's going to be our keynote speaker tonight, there he is. Jay Norris, who's going to handle Q&A tonight, there he is. I can't see distant when I wear these, and I can't see up close if I don't, so here we go. Peter Propp, there he is. Sam Handel, I know Sam's here. Where is Sam? There he is, awesome. And Joel Millinari, there he is, awesome. And so those are the ones that are here tonight, and then Dan Bickel and Cliff Serlin are also very heavily involved but are not able to make it tonight. And then from the town side, it's myself, again, your first select woman, and police chief, but not acting in his role as police chief, Fodi Kaskinas, are very involved, and Fodi's not here tonight. So our vision, as I mentioned, is to make Westport the tech startup hub of Connecticut. A place that is known for its ecosystem of tech innovators and investors. A place where our kids who are interested in the tech industry can find mentors and internships and opportunities. A place where tech entrepreneurs want to come to live, work, play, and learn. So I'm going to be honest, we don't really know exactly how we're going to achieve this. So tonight is our beginning. We're doing what entrepreneurs do best and what government doesn't usually do very well, is innovating as we speak and as we pursue our North Star. So we want you all to be part of our journey. If you're interested in getting more involved and helping us chart the path, please speak to one of the group that actually raised their hands. And if you're interested in being part of the journey as a participant of the ecosystem that we're trying to build, please, we want you to join us. We will make sure you continue to know about all of our events and the journey that we're on. So, speaking of next events, we do have one in the diary right now. Our next event will be June 13th at La Plage, and you'll hear more about that as we get closer to that date. So now, the more interesting part of the evening, it's my pleasure to introduce Matt Gorin, the co-founder and general partner of Contour Ventures. I think that's probably why most of you are here tonight, is to hear him speak. We are super lucky to have him as part of our team and as the keynote speaker tonight. So with that, Matt.
Well, hello. Thank you, First Select Women. Really appreciate that intro. On the keynote thing, so I was asked to give a few words by a good friend, Cliff, and somehow this morphed into a keynote. So, but I'm still gonna, be brief to leave time to mingle, talk, get to know each other, and ask questions. So I run a pre-seed and a seed venture capital firm in New York called Contour Venture Partners. We focus on 4 sectors: B2B SaaS, infrastructure SaaS, fintech, fin services, and health IT. We're typically the lead investor, so getting very involved early on with our companies, and have been doing it almost 20 years. So we have 7 funds under management and are just about to raise our next fund. And as someone who loves technology, entrepreneurship, and of course Westport, when I was asked to be a part of this initiative, I said, it's a no-brainer. I mean, this is awesome, and great people involved, and so many great ingredients here in Westport to create a vibrant ecosystem that is actually already a vibrant ecosystem. The people who are in that ecosystem don't know the other people in the ecosystem. So that's why we have great, kind of entrepreneurs, great operators, lawyers, bankers, investors, right? All living here and have ties to Westport. And the whole, or I shouldn't say the whole, but one of the primary purposes of this effort, Startup Westport, is to bring everyone together, right? And we've seen that in New York, and then great things happen, right? And we, being based in New York, helped to grow the New York City ecosystem when it was very early on, nascent. I mean, this was 2005. West Coast venture capital firms, right? The big West Coast brand name firms wouldn't look at companies in New York, wouldn't come to New York. And, now fast forward 18 years, and it was a struggle, right? Real struggle to get funded and to build your team. And there was the whole knock on New York is that it's too expensive and you don't have the access to talent in New York, right? I mean, these were 2 of the, the biggest things that we had to overcome as an ecosystem. Fast forward 18 years, New York is the second largest, and by the way, we were a blip. I mean, in 2005, like a total blip, compared to other ecosystems around the world in terms of technology, entrepreneurship. Fast forward 18 years, we're the second largest ecosystem, technology, entrepreneurship ecosystem in the world. And that's 7+ years running at this point. So it's amazing to see the growth, of the ecosystem and the maturation of the companies, the maturation of the talent, And literally in '05, when we had meetups and, you could fit the ecosystem in this room. New York, right? I mean, this was maybe a little bit bigger, but that was, everyone knew everyone, really small. It's not to say Westport is going to be New York, but it doesn't have to be, right? I mean, there's so many things, to one, learn from an ecosystem like New York about how it grew, but also a lot of the ingredients that were similar, that were there in New York are here in Westport. I'm gonna get into that in a little bit. So yeah, and then in terms of Westport, like before the pandemic, harder to see a vibrant ecosystem popping up and being created in a suburb like Westport. Not just Westport, any suburb. Why? Because access to talent, right? And two, the founders of these companies, harder to get them to live and to start their company in a town like Westport, right? So those things have fundamentally changed, since the pandemic, and we're seeing this in terms of the companies and the entrepreneurs that are coming to us, right, pre and post pandemic, very, some similarities, but also very different. And what's happened is we're seeing, even in our own portfolio, companies are moving to, kind of cities like Austin or, just smaller cities outside of New York. Not many, but a few. And they're able to be either a truly remote company, which means there's no office other than maybe a WeWork and people come in once a month for meetings, or they are doing a hybrid where it's 1 or 2 days a week in the office, or 1 week a month in the office for people who are out of town, who are traveling. And both models work now because technology, the technology infrastructure has gotten so good, with Zoom and productivity apps, that you're able to coordinate and actually run a business in a hybrid way, which is really great. So how does that relate to Westport? Like I said earlier, there's already great people in this town, great entrepreneurs, great operators, and people since 2020, so many people have moved here in the industry. Like I have run into people in the venture industry, in tech, who I never expected to meet up in Westport, right? I only would meet up with them in New York, and now we're bumping into each other in town, having lunch, getting, a small group together to talk about things. And that's awesome, right? And so that's when you realize something has changed and the seeds of an ecosystem, are starting to really sprout. So talent, right? Talent's been the hardest thing in terms of building a company, right? Because you're in close quarters. There's lots of young people typically at startups that tend to congregate in larger cities, and that's been really hard. Not even for a town like Westport, a town like New Haven, right? Smaller cities, really hard to mature your ecosystem without that level of talent. Now, you could start a company in Westport and have great talent around the country, even around the world, with a headquarters in Westport, which you just couldn't do practically. You could do it, you couldn't scale that in terms of an ecosystem. And obviously, Westport is an amazing place to live. All of us in this room, kind of came here for a bunch of reasons: the schools, the beaches, the restaurants, the town, the amazing people, the type of person that's attracted to Westport, right? There's, like good people generally. And I don't want to, overgeneralize there, right? But. And then we're also close to New York, right? We're close to New York, close to Boston, close to New Haven, which are all hubs. New Haven is a growing hub, but Boston and New York, a big hub. So you could start a company in Westport and have talent that's a train ride away, which is great, right? So, that proximity that proximity is key. And then there's the obvious stuff about, look, if you're thinking about New York versus Connecticut, you know, a tax rate of top tax rate of 7% versus 10.9%. In New York, there's a 25% tax credit here or 25% of your investment above 25K that you get a credit for, you know, from the state of New York, which is an awesome incentive to invest as an angel investor. And then, of course, the government support, which starts with, you know, the Startup Westport effort that we're all here for. So lots of building blocks, lots of ingredients to kind of mix and match and figure out how to build a vibrant ecosystem here. And I wouldn't be surprised if we fast forward 10, 20 years and there's a major hub that was kind of nothing in terms of technology, right? You know, kind of today, 10, 20 years down the road, you know, why there's no reason Westport or a town like Westport can't be another Silicon Valley. And, you know, again, Silicon Valley was in the suburbs, right? And but Silicon Valley started because you had to be close to the tech infrastructure, right? And that was critical. Now you're totally disconnected from the tech infrastructure. You don't need it, given, you know, kind of the pervasiveness of the cloud right now and the cloud apps, as well as the cloud infrastructure. That where you start a business has nothing to do with where the actual, you know, kind of bits and bytes are and the hardware is. Again, another great thing going for a town like Westport. So the last thing I want to talk about is just the venture industry, you know, over the past year, right? I mean, it's been tough, right? I mean, venture investment is down 40%. A lot you all have been reading it, and a lot of you have been feeling it as as an entrepreneur and operator in your company. From a venture perspective, well, from an outsider perspective looking in, you could say, wow, this was the best, you know, before 2022, right? 2016 or 17 to 21. Wow, that was easy, right? Best years, easy to run a company, easy to start a company, people throwing money at you. I think the complete opposite. Like we're very involved in our companies, and this was actually, and I, you know, kind of talk to my wife about this all the time, how frustrating it is building a company in that market. Very, very hard for, you know, kind of maybe not obvious reasons. Talent wars, brutal in terms of trying to acquire really good people in every role, right? Whether it's a back-end engineer, a VP of engineering, a head of marketing, someone, you know, kind of a CFO. There are so many companies, and the turnover is so high at these companies that it's a battle. I mean, you're making 10 offers to bring one person on board if you're lucky, which is not easy if you're an entrepreneur and a management team building a company. Second, too much money. Related, right, to the talent wars, but too much money. What does too much money do? Way less discipline. You way higher burn rates. You think you're actually reducing the risk when you take on that money, you're enhancing it. And we coach our entrepreneurs all the time on this, and we must have passed on double-digit $50 million or greater term sheets within our portfolio and just said no. Like, we're gonna do this the right way. We are confident in the business that we're building. We don't need that much money. We'll raise $5 to $10 million. Like, that's all we need. But the funds got so big, literally tripling, quadrupling, or more the size of the funds that they're investing in compared to the prior funds. And they're literally trying to stuff money into companies 4 or 5x what is actually needed for these companies. And it's just bad, because then you overhire, you have a ton of complexity. And as a CEO and a management team trying to operate your business, like that's not a good thing. Like you need focus, and you need that vacuum, especially early on, to get things right, make sure you have the right culture, the right foundation, the right building blocks. That that we went astray as an industry with regards to that because of this capital. The other thing the capital did, created a ton of preference, right? So, if you raise a $100 million round, but you needed 20, you have $80 million of additional preferred sitting on top of your stack. That, if you're for all the employees, right, and who own common stock, that makes your holdings more risky as an employee. And what that also does, you have, if you're raising 100 million, you got to do it at 800, 900, $1 billion pre to have the appropriate level of dilution. What does that do? Sets you up for failure. Not all the time, but a good amount of time, more than you'd think, because you got a high burn, you got all the other issues I talked about, then you got to go out and raise money. If the market's not perfect, you're setting yourself up for a down round. And this has been going on a lot over the past year, a lot. And it's going to continue into 23. I don't have a perfect crystal ball in 24, but the level, the number of down rounds, we're not in the late innings yet, in my view at least. There's still more adjustment to do, and that's why if you're prudent and you kind of, you didn't take the easy path and the path that made you look the most valuable on paper in the short run, you'd typically be better off in the long run. And competition. So not only for talent, but competition for your product or your service, right? So we saw an explosion in the number of similar companies getting funded. And that's not good for anyone, right? So you're literally, where there'd be 3, maybe 4 major competitors, you all of a sudden have 10 to 15 or more in a sector, and there's only so much TAM, total addressable market, in a sector to warrant the amount of venture capital that have gone into these businesses. So we're seeing that now. That shakeout's happening where companies are merging, companies are going out of business, and they're merging because if you don't merge with someone else is going to merge with that person, and then you're going to be, kind of at the in a tougher position. So we're seeing some of that dynamic starting to play out here, or looking to sell yourself because you just can't compete with all these other competitors. So back to the original point is coming full circle. This is hands down, in my view at least, the best time to be starting a business. Best time. And I look in our portfolio, a lot of our great companies were formed and started in really tough times, like 2009, 2008, 9, 10. And this is it's a great time as an entrepreneur, right? Less competition, less talent, kind of talent war, more discipline, more time to get things right. Like, you don't have a gun to your head. You're not reading the press and freaking out that so-and-so competitor raised $75 million, right? You could actually build your business in the right way. And you know what? The reality is you're not going public in 5 years from the startup, right? The average time it takes in our portfolio, right, from starting a business to going public, 10 years. And it could be 12 to 15, right? But 10 is kind of, even on the low end of that range. It's really 10 to 15 years is what kind of what it takes. And a lot of companies have delayed that process and gotten too big. That's a conversation for another time. But with all this being said, it feels like we have the right ingredients, the right people, the right mentors coming here as well, right? You need mentorship to build an ecosystem. And with all the great people that we have in town, that mentorship, base is here. We just have to uncover it, bring it out, and enable people to tap into it, right? So, and it's as good as any ecosystem at its starting point. And you take that, you combine it with where we are in the economy and the market and what the outlook is for the next couple of years. And like I said, it's really the best time to be an entrepreneur and to be starting a business. And that's where everyone in this room has a role to play and could just, help and give advice. And, it's really up to all of us how this Startup Westport initiative grows. And it could be, if no one does anything or people don't feel good, it's not going to go anywhere. And if people get really excited about it and there's, that right momentum behind it, it has the potential to be something real and significant. So with that, I guess that was more than a few words, but it was a stream of conscious in a way as well. With that, I'll hand it over to Jay Norris for a few words.
Hello, greetings everyone. Good evening, I'm Jay Norris. I'm a resident in town. And let me tell you a little bit about myself first, and then I'll tell you about our tech venture. So about 6 years ago, where's my wife? My wife is over there, her name is Crystal, say hi. About 6 years ago, we moved here to Westport. And we moved here from Brooklyn, okay? And I said, wow, babe, I'm not sure what this is gonna be. Let's test this first, And but we dove all in. We went head first. We're here now, and we love it. And first also, where's Bill Harmer and Jeremy? Are they here? Okay, from the library. I'm also on the board of the library. So they also kind of, when I got here, I met some gentlemen. They said, you gotta meet Bill, see this innovative library. All right, so I got here, I said, wow, Westport has a lot to offer. This is excellent. Told my wife about it. We came, we checked it out. And I said, wow, it's lacking a couple of things. And I said, well, the diversity box, we might have to, check that box and start to push that forward a little bit. But also, I'm an innovator. So I own a company called Guest Software. And Guest is a creative leasing software that helps property owners view their tenant sales performance so that they can offer a variable lease. We all know small to medium-sized businesses, it's hard to pay the rent, right? On time, especially fixed deals. So we offer that. So I would go into the city 4 days before COVID, 4 days a week. COVID happened, boom. I'm like, okay. Just like what Matt mentioned, Zoom world started, remote working. So I said, wow, so I'm out here. And I said, you know what? I'm out here. I go to the Zoom room, I pick up the kids, I go back home. I said, wow, we got to do a little more. We got to do a little more. And where's Joe? Joel here? Joel, did Joel leave? Okay, Joel has a place, a member space that we all meet up, right? And it's really about the network. And so I really want to say that what you said, Matt, that I'm starting to find a network here that I feel is like, I met a gentleman a couple weeks ago, Mitchell's. Mitchell's a store, Jack Mitchell. He has this concept, hug your customers. And I was like, but Jack, I like hug your customers. You mind if can you lend that word for me? And he said, yeah. I said, well, how about hug your community? Let's give that to Jen, right? Let's go to Jen Tucker. But that's essentially what I see here is that we need to kind of get together, come together in a meaningful way, but let the conversation start here and continue to kind of hug the community or hug the topic, all right? And so I just wanted to say that first, and then I have some questions for the audience, okay? All right, Stefano put me up to this, okay? All right, my first question, everybody show of hand, who lives here in town? Actually in town, okay. 95% of the room lives here, that's great. Okay, here's another one. Who is or has been a part of a startup venture? Hands up. Once again, 90% of the town. Okay, who was invested in a startup? About 80%. Oh, wow. Make sure you get the name tags, okay? Make sure you get the name tags down. Okay, so now this one. by a show of hands, who's thinking about opening a business right now? Ah, investors, look around, look around. All right, so, okay. And with the last thing I want to do is I love for everybody to take their phone out. Please, take your phone out. And I do this because I really want to make this meaningful. Go to June 13th, save the date, put it in right now, all right, for the next one. This is about performance, guys. I'm about performance analytics. We got to make this happen. We want to make sure it's a double this turnout. So make sure you save that, okay? All right, and now I'll open it up for you. Questions. And I know you have questions for Matt, so I'm sure. Or Stefano, or Joel, if Joel's here, or Sam. Sam? Who has questions for these guys? And if you want questions, there's the mic there, so you guys can go over to the mic. Anybody have any questions for Startup Westport? No questions? Shy bunch. Shy bunch. Okay. Go ahead. Oh, no. Stefano? I mean, let's give him the mic, but
yeah, exactly.
I don't, no. I mean, I wouldn't say that. Let me tell you one of the things that I recognize, and we had this conversation before we started, and we realized that was going to happen, right? We have a lot of small business, people opening up businesses, really not tech focused. But tell me, what business do you know of that does not use technology to run efficiently right now? You know what I mean? So I think there's crossover there, right, with every business. Yeah, so yes, you can be on. Yes, you can be. And I don't know if you looked around, but investor, you might be an investor, you might start a company, but I think this is just an ecosystem. We really want to create the startup culture. And some people, I feel, don't know what that really looks like. They hear startup and they're not sure what it is. And Steph, come on up here, man. I want you to, and you're eating, come on, dude. Come on, dude. This is the guy, let's give him a round of applause. He founded this. Steph. So you remember we had this conversation about.
This was literally the first bite of the night.
That's all good. That's all good.
You waited for me.
I waited for you. But we had the conversation about who was going to come into this club community, and we talked about it. And I said, well, I mean, we got to let everybody who wants either invest in a startup, they've invested in the community as an entrepreneur somehow. And you want to elaborate a little bit?
Well, listen. Thank you all for being here tonight. This is Startup Westport, and this is Startup Westport. It wouldn't be possible without every one of you participating. Everybody here already elaborated on what we do and what we are, so I'm not going to repeat that. What matters to me is that we create the most vibrant startup environment and hub in the Northeast besides New York and Boston. That's really the goal. I think we have all the ingredients to make it happen. And one of the things that we believe is going to make this successful is that we have the town to back this up. We're here because of the town. The town is supportive, so thank you. Thank you again to First Select Woman, and thanks again for Chief of Police and to Bill Harmer, the Director of the Library, for hosting us here tonight. The only thing that we really want from you is input. What do you want, or what do you think is necessary for attracting startup companies? What kind of infrastructure? Let's dream big. Tonight we'll start with a small infrastructure. We were having a conversation with Matt. The small infrastructure is going to be, we're going to build a registry. You can sign up so you can offer them mentorship. You can say what you have to offer, what your experience is, and the people you can advertise, the people can reach out to you. But beyond that, what do we need? Do we need a fund to fund just startups in Westport? I don't know. Do we need a biotech club? I don't know, a set of GPUs, or maybe a donation from OpenAI that will dominate the rest of the world? We don't know. We don't know. But you guys have all the ideas, you have the perception, you have the passion, so work with us to make it happen. And most importantly, this is my last message, sign up on startupwestport.org. There is a little sign-up link there. You can put your email, and we'll make sure to give you as much spam as any other website you signed on, okay? No, in all seriousness, we will let you know about new events. We will advertise the registry, how to sign up as we build it, and that will be a way to keep in touch and hear from you. So without any further ado, I think we can go back to all the wonderful food and drinks that has been provided, and unless there are any other questions.
Any other questions?
Oh, sorry, yes.
So, I agree, we clearly have all the seeds for success. And I think in a post-pandemic world, we're now all, working from home, or working from an office a mile away. And we're here, so the talent is here, the investors are here. The question I have is, lessons learned from building the New York ecosystem 15, 20 years ago. What can we learn from that to be that?
You want to get?
Yeah, you want to get the mic?
The mic. Can I take this out? No, I can't. Nah. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
The question was, what could we learn from New York, right, in building that ecosystem? A lot of what I talked about, there's also, right, it's the government was involved, but after a little, it was more of a public-private partnership that had an incubation fund that was very helpful in getting companies funded, seed funding that just wasn't available outside of, a handful of seed funds, right? And we were the first, Contour was the first seed fund focused on New York. After us, a couple more started in 2007 and then, kind of 9 timeframe, but there were a handful, right? So that public-private partnership was helpful for sure in getting that friends and family money in, and then the seed funds coming in after that friends and family round. The mentorship was really important. So we had, there was a generation, Silicon Alley, from 95 to 99. It was good, lots of failures, a couple of successes, but there were really good talent coming out of like the DoubleClicks of the world that served as mentors, right? So not many companies, but enough that there was a real kind of base of mentors. And I feel like we have the equivalent, if not better, mentorship that here, right? No one knows each other yet, right? But better mentorship than we had in New York in 2005. We had the customers in New York, which was a big thing, right? That's something that we don't have here as much, but we did have the customers, Fin Services, media, right? Some of the biggest, companies in the world, right, in those sectors. Business plan contests, right? Like, and just and meetups, like a ton of grassroots stuff like that, right? Getting people together, and good things happen from that. Co-founders met, seed investors met, angel investors met companies, right? Random, like 20 people startup or initiatives like this, right? But even, at a bar, like people would meet at a bar, at a restaurant, in someone's apartment, at, really small scale stuff. But
Great. Yeah, that was good.
Just that, thank you, Matt. And, customers don't want to meet you in person anymore anyway. Like,
they
for enterprise, they do.
No.
But yes.
So that's not an issue.
Yeah.
But seriously, folks, let's get to know each other. Enough of this
Keep
tired
going.
faces.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's eat some food.
do
Let's
it.
have some drinks.
Network.
And sign up on startupwestport.org, and we'll
June
be in touch.
13th.
Yes.
Make sure we have it.
Thank you.